This is step 10 of the course on self-awareness and human intelligence and your big advantage over artificial intelligence. The whole course is 33 steps and it involves fast learning, being ready to learn from experiential teaching, which is the natural way to learn, as opposed to academic teaching, which pushes information in through the conscious mind. So it's all about the subconscious mind.
All right, so let's talk about it. Inputs. You have a conscious mind and an unconscious mind. And when you're trying to teach people something, there are two different paths you can use as a teacher, which I use. There's the conscious mind path, and that's the path that nearly everybody uses. They talk to your conscious mind using your senses. They may be showing you stuff, or they may be talking to you like this. They don't use a lot of touching. Actually, if you're trying to show someone how to play tennis or something like that, there may be an element of, showing them how to do the movement. It's all very dodgy these days in the modern world. If you're teaching someone cooking, there may be this sort of stuff involved, but mostly it's sight and sound. Now, there is also an unconscious path. But actually, the reality is, most of what you learn as you go through your experience in your life, most of the learning you achieve is actually not someone in a classroom telling you stuff. Most of your learning comes in through the unconscious path. So let's just call sight and sound. But it's other stuff, plus, plus, plus. And that comes directly, a lot of it comes directly into your unconscious. Now, some of these inputs, as I say, come into your conscious. And there's some formal words for this that people use. I'm not going to use red because red is kind of a shouty type color. And what I'm going to tell you is the words that you might be able to look up on YouTube, but they're not words I like to use because they're kind of fancy words, really, and they're not really meaningful. So this is called explicit. That's explicit. This is called implicit, I suppose. Some people call this non-declarative. That's not a word you read every day on your box of cornflakes, is it? So what is it that all these inputs are giving you? Now I don't know what pen to use. I'm going to just write a list. I'll explain it.
As you go up this learning curve to self-awareness, there are two very real dangers that you're going to have to be wary of. The first is that the self-help industry, which has sprung up in the last 30 or 40 years, is very voracious. It seeks to exploit your desire to improve yourself. It seeks to exploit your hunger for information. And what it gives you is a lot of misconceptions, of recycled thoughts that have got twisted in the process and will actually not help you at all. Because the only real way for you to fully understand what's going on in your mind is for you to do the necessary groundwork, following the right concepts and principles which the IPL is trying to put before you. Now, the other real hazard is that the world of psychology, as it is taught today, as opposed to psychiatry, talking about psychology, it has split into various factions on different principles. Some of them are cognitive, which is they look at what goes on inside your mind almost from a chemical point of view. The others are behaviorist, in which they look at your behavior. There's also schisms between humanistic and ethical principles. So it's a complete mess, to be honest. And people today who do a degree or an advanced degree or become practitioners in psychology, they've been fed a whole load of stuff which they've engorged into their minds, and they use that stuff to supposedly help you. Now, of course, there are some very well-meaning psychologists out there, And maybe those people have managed to find a way through and sort what's called the wheat from the chaff. And I hope you can find such a person if you are indeed in need of help from somebody else. But before you go out seeking that help or spending an awful lot of money as you can, training courses and so on, and self-help books and stuff like that, just hang in there, complete this course, and then you decide what it is you need to help you go further on this journey of self-awareness. And we can assure you that this stuff has been tested in the field with thousands of people. So go for it. Be aware of not being exploited. Be aware of not being wrongly advised. And have a positive mindset that this is a journey that you are capable of, that the power is within you. It's a bit like one of those Star Wars things and so on, where the journey can be difficult at times, but the power is there, the power is within you, and you will achieve whatever kind of status like Jedi Knight or whatever it is you're aiming for. You can do it, and we want to help you, and we don't want a shed load of your money. Good luck. In this lecture, we use a technique called critical analytical thinking, which we shorten into CAT, C-A-T. And it's a way of dividing up subject matter like thoughts, things like facts and opinions and processes and procedures and so on, and dividing those up into different categories. And we do this because your mind processes different sorts of knowledge in different ways, and it learns information in different ways. And that's a balance of your conscious and subconscious mind. So it's fundamental to the IPL teaching method that we align the way we explain things to you with the way that they're going to be processed within your mind. So this lecture is just a beginning of looking at that and helping you raise your self-awareness of these inner mental processes and thought paths. It's a bit heavy going, I have to admit, but if you are earnestly seeking to understand yourself, then this is the sort of information that you will find very, very valuable to help you understand yourself better.
Facts. I'm going to use a word that comes from my world of computing called protocols. There's procedures, methods, there's experiences. So facts, experiences, concepts, that's a good one. The other thing I control very much is the mood and relationship, which is, as much as possible, I try and make what's called the transactions adult-adult. This relates to a subject called transactional analysis. And that was developed by a guy called Eric Byrne. And he's most famous for a book he wrote called The Games People Play. Now, the reason I'm throwing all this information is I'm hoping that if this stuff interests you, and I hope it does, I want to provide you with other sources of things you can go and look at. So you can YouTube or Google explicit memory. I suspect you'll find it as explicit memory. I'm not convinced it's memory as such. And this is non-declarative, and they'll probably call that memory as well. Now, the reason I don't think of it as memory is you live in a fast changing world. Your environment is changing second by second. So when we talk about memory and so on, it needs to take account of everything is shifting fast and it's variable and it's multi-dimensional. Your memory isn't like computer memory at all. Your memory is a dynamic network that's pulsing all the time as your blood flows through your body and chemicals rush around in your mind. and your memory is linking things up at kind of like lightning speed, really, really fast, and it's reaching conclusions. And later on, I'll be talking to you more about what actually goes on inside your mind. I'm not going to do it medically, because what I want to do with this is specifically talk to you about the teaching method that I'm using. Okay? So normally, as I say, when people teach, they use this path and they tell you facts. And they might give you, if they're good, they'll share concepts with you about how did the idea come about? Like Archimedes wanting to weigh the crown and stuff like that. And suddenly he had this idea. So in that case, that guy had an experience and he learned something from the experience. You're learning through your experience, but mostly you learn through this path. It's very hard to teach someone a conscious experience. You can expose them to an experience, which is what I do a lot. I expose them to experiences, but I don't actually make it too explicit. It's implicit, and very often, when I talk to them, I'm actually talking to their subconscious. Now, you're probably much more used to people talking to your conscious mind. That's how people think. But actually, what's the point of talking to a person's conscious mind if they're actually learning much more through their subconscious mind?
All these videos are single take of me talking to camera. And there's a bit of a jump here as I go through the different categories of thought, where I jump very quickly to the difference between protocols, which are standard rules, and procedures and methods, which are how to do things, which you make up mostly by yourself within your own mind. You lay down those thought paths. Now, this is such an important topic that I've dedicated pretty well all of step 11 to it. So hang in there for the next couple of minutes on this one, step 10, and we will revisit this whole topic of the different learning paths that take inputs either into your conscious mind or your subconscious mind, and how important understanding those two ways of learning are.
Protocols is a formal set of rules. It's standardized rules that other people have set, usually. Now, those do need to be pushed in through this side of things. You need to, ordinary teaching at university and at school is pretty good at this. They're pretty good at telling you facts and telling you standardized rules. And I don't know how much you would call that information. I think it might be called information. What is information? The line between facts and information is, I think, relevant facts perhaps are information. The whole world of computing is IT. I think it's IT, information technology. That's what computers, hardware, software, and everything is called IT, information technology. But of course, it's not so much technology these days, because an awful lot of it is the software and the applications, which strictly speaking isn't technology.
At this point, I go on explaining about the different kinds of learning that you can achieve through your conscious mind and your unconscious mind. But the real point is, experiential learning is the way that most creatures learn most in their early life, and it is the best way to learn in your later life. But unfortunately, academic teaching focuses on the conscious pathways. But you by now are understanding emotional intelligence and social intelligence and applied functional intelligence. So don't be afraid to learn in a subconscious manner.